Hey everyone, always Dizzy here, back with another video. Um, okay, yeah, this one is called What to Expect in Your First Chess Tournament. Let's get started here. So before we start, um, I have another video that is about why you should play in over-the-board chess tournaments. I recommend watching that if you haven't already. It's not necessary to watch that before this one, but it will basically get you pumped up and maybe um, provide some endorsements on why you should be playing over the board tournaments. But if you're watching this video, you probably already are planning to play in one. I'm recording this during, COVID-19 is still going strong here. So there's not going to be many over the board tournaments in North America yet, but soonish they will start reappearing. I'm guessing maybe 3 to 6 months from now. So while you probably won't be able to attend any right now, they are coming up on the horizon as the vaccines come out. This video is going to cover over the board tournaments only. So that's the whole point of this video. This is not for online tournaments. That's not real tournaments. Okay. And then also just a caveat that I'm in Canada. So American tournaments will mostly be the same, like 95% the same as, I forgot to mention one thing, but anyways, they'll be about 95% the same as in Canada. The European ones will be a bit different. So they're probably be about 75% the same as what the contents here will have. Basically, one of the main differences with the European ones are, I believe they only play one round per day, whereas the North American ones, they usually run for between 2 to 3 days, and you play 2 rounds per day. So, first of all, since again, I'm assuming that you've never played in a over-the-board tournament before, so first you will need to have a membership with your chess federation, your national chess federation. So you can simply look for your federation online. For most of the viewers here, it will either be the USCF, the United States Chess Federation, or the CFC, the Canadian Chess Federation. But if you're in other countries, just look for your national federation. That's where you can find tournaments. They're almost always listed there. On the tournament website, everything will be pretty. Oh, I also forgot to mention something else too. But anyways, most of the information on the tournament's site should answer your questions. But if you have any additional ones, feel free to email or phone the tournament director or organizer. They should be able to help you. Membership costs. I believe they're around $40 to $50 a year. This is Canadian prices, but it's roughly the same in American. Tournament fees will vary depending on the tournament. And I just realized that some of this is cut off because of my webcam, but that's okay. Tournament fees. I never really pay attention to this stuff, so I'm sorry if this isn't super accurate, but it's a rough ballpark. Basically, the smaller the tournament, usually the cheaper it is. So if it's like just if it's kind of just a smaller tournament in a town, it might be like $30, $35. Some of the bigger ones that are held in nicer hotels and nicer venues will be more expensive because they have bigger prizes and the venue is a lot more expensive. The most expensive tournament I've been to personally was a $100 entrance fee. If you pay anything more than $100, you're going to like a really premium tournament. So, okay. And when you register, there's going to be different sections, right? So there might be an open section, which means basically like anyone can enter that. Sometimes there's prerequisites, but it doesn't really matter your rating. You can play in the open section. Don't do that. And then there will be like under 2000 section where you have to be rated 2000 or under 2000 to get in there. And then there'll be like under 1800. It depends on the tournament, the exact section. Some might only have 2 sections. Some might just be an open. Generally, there will be at least 2 sections. So um, I strongly recommend playing in, unless you're like really high rate, unless you're high rated online, unless you're like 2100 or higher online. I recommend playing in the lowest rated category. And even if you are 2100 or higher, you still might want to play in the lowest section, because over the board is just complete. Like over the board tournaments are completely different than online for a number of reasons. The longer time control, it's so much more stressful. So many more distractions. It's just completely different. You might not be used to 3D, over the board chess. So yeah, play in the lowest section. You're most likely, if you're watching this video, you're probably not too strong to play in the lowest section. So play in the lowest section, work your way up. Okay. Planning. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory, but yeah, make sure you have everything taken care of, like your accommodation if you're traveling to the tournament, whether it be a hotel or Airbnb or whatever. Make sure you have proper time off work, and you have travel plans taken care of. Like if you have to book an airplane or take a boat or a train or whatever, make sure you have enough time. I'll skip over here. Yeah, make sure you have enough travel time. Don't cut things short, because it's a chess tournament and you can't really arrive late, or you might forfeit the round. So make sure you have enough time before and after. Don't cut things close. If you have a lot of tournaments under your belt, then maybe you can start doing that. But in your first tournament, make sure you have enough travel time. Some tournaments require that you bring your own chessboard and clock. I've never had to do that. I have the luxury that all of the organizers here, they provide all of that. You don't have to bring anything, but just check with the TD, or make sure on the tournament website that you don't have to bring your own clock and board. You might have to. I think in the US, it's more common that you bring your own clock and board. If you do, make sure you have like a decent clock and board. Like you might want to upgrade your, if you have an analog clock. I don't even think they will let you do that anymore. You need a digital clock probably now. And make sure your board isn't like a $5 Walmart board, right? Okay. Arriving at the tournament. So if you arrive early, since it's your first tournament, I recommend checking out the venue and playing hall. You'd be surprised, because it can sometimes be hard to find. For example, there was a tournament held at a university in the summer of 2019, so pre-COVID, and the tournaments are held usually held on the weekends, when everything is closed. So you had to, and the university is a big place, right? So you could only enter it through one entrance. And if you didn't plan this beforehand, like if you only decided to show up like 10 minutes before the round, you had a good chance of being late for your game, because there were no signs and stuff. Like you had to, when I went there, you had to walk and like check all the doors. Okay, no, this one's locked. Everything was locked. And then I had to like walk around several times and then finally find the right way to enter. And then even when I went inside, it's a big area and there weren't really signs or anything. It wasn't that well organized. I was walking up and down and everything, and finally found it. And I was fine, because I did that way early. I was there like a couple hours early. But my point is, if it's your first tournament, don't just wing it. You should probably go there, make sure you know where you're going, where the playing hall is, and everything. And it's also good to know where the bathrooms are, but they should tell you that. There's no there's no need to sign in. Like if you've registered already online and you've paid and everything, you don't have to do anything. You can just at the time of round one, you just sit down and start playing. So yeah, you don't have to like show your ID and sign in or anything. You're good to go as long as you're registered online and you've paid and everything, and you have a membership and everything is good to go. However, since it's your first tournament, I recommend when you arrive at the playing hall, just briefly introduce yourself to the TD. Just tell them that it's your first tournament, and they'll tell you if you need to know anything, right? So I recommend doing that because I've seen new players come and they don't know where to sit, and they're just clueless, and they never bothered asking anybody on what to do. So, round one, tournament day. So for your first tournament, yeah, I kind of already touched on this, but yeah, get to the playing hall early. What I talked about before was if you were there a day early, still check out the playing hall if it was set up and everything. Here I'm talking about round one. So before round one, still get there early, like at least half an hour, especially if it's your first tournament. There's often important announcements and the TD or the arbiters will explain some of the rules, things you need to know, where the bathrooms are. Something else I forgot to mention, cell phone should be completely off. I didn't mention that in here. I should have. That's very important. Cell phone completely off. But yeah, just get there early. Get to the tournament early and know where the seatings are. So the way they do it is every board will have a number. So every board will have a number. So there'll be a little label like 45, 46, 47. And well, I'll get back to that in a second. So for round one, there will be pairings on the wall. And I guess I'll kind of show you. Let me kind of show some photos here. So first of all, yeah, this is one of the nicer tournaments I went to. But okay, I don't have a photo of the actual pairings, but this is the standings sheet. But usually on a table or on the wall, they're going to post the pairings, and it'll just be like a printed out sheet like this, but it will have the name. It will have like the first name is always white, second name is always black. So there will be the names, and then there will be the board number, like 45. So it might say Bob versus Joe, board 45. So Bob would be white and Joe would be black. And so you go to table 45 and you sit in the appropriate colors there. Okay, let me go back. Where was I here? Sorry, where was I? Round one. Okay, and present. Sorry, where was I here? Here we go. Oh yeah, so piranhas swarming, because basically people are very eager to when the pairings come, and it probably varies depending on the tournament, but here like they don't post the pairings until like often they'll post them like 5 minutes before the round starts. They'll post it on the wall, and you have literally 100 people. Like the tournaments here are pretty big. Like you have 100 people run to like the one little sheet. There might be a couple sheets for the different sections, and we'll be trying to frantically find their pairings. So make sure you get in there and find your pairing, and write, if you have your score sheet with you, write down their name and their rating and your board number and your color, and then go and find your seat. It'll be pretty hectic. At least it is here. But don't worry about that too much. It's not a huge issue. Worst case scenario, you're kind of at the end of the line or end of the pack, and you might even be a couple minutes late to your game. But get in there and find your pairing. Um, whoops, make sure you have everything you need. So water, pen, scorecard, like the score sheet rather, I should have wrote. That's just where you write down your moves. Earplugs in, which is something you might want to bring with you. Because it's not noisy. It's very quiet in the playing hall, but you can still get distracted. You know, there's people like blowing their nose, little kids making little noises, people coughing. There's just, you know, little ambient noises. As a new player, even not as a new player, but especially as a new player, you're probably going to be facing a lot of kids. Doesn't matter if you're 40 years old. You might be facing like little kids like 5 years old, like 6 years old. I have, okay. So, I think the youngest kid I played was 5. I think he was about 5, possibly he was 6. Just a little kid. Like, actually, do I got a photo of that? Do I have? Hang on. Looking for, like, there's kids younger than this. Like, and these are like, okay. I'm looking. Oh, I might not have a photo of that. I don't think. But yeah, I didn't include kids. But there's kids much younger than what you see. Well, sorry, where was it? Than what you see here. Like half his age. Actually, I've played him and him, but I'm talking about like little kids. These are like old kids compared. But just be prepared. Well, sorry, how do we get back to my thing? Be prepared to be facing kids, and because I've heard like some adults don't want to play kids for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but it's just you're going to. So suck it up. You're going to be playing kids, and don't underestimate them. It's hard not to because they're like so young, and you wonder like, you know, they I've had kids where they didn't know how to spell my name. Like they gave me their score sheet so I could write my name there. Like they weren't old enough to really know how to write, like, you know, 5 years old, but they could still wipe you off the board playing chess. It's ridiculous. And often their parents will come and like, have a good game, and then mom, and then that happens all the time. And mom, go away, and then like, make sure you drink your juice, and yeah. Anyways, be prepared for that. And also here I have, be prepared to lose most, if not all, of your games during the whole tournament, and be completely humbled. It's a completely different thing playing over the board than it is online. It's so much more serious. Players are so much better and more resilient. Here I wrote, I know it's cut off because of my webcam, but I wrote 1100 over the board might be like 2000 Lichess or 1800 chess.com. Like 1100 or 1200. They can be very, very strong. You would be surprised. You know, like my peak as I am making this video is 2158, or is it 2168? Something like that. 2158, 2168 on Lichess Rapid. And yeah, if I'm facing someone that's like 1200 over the board, it's where I am. There's a big issue of like underrated kids and everything, but it's significant amount of work, and I could still lose. Like, it's very, very hard. So just my point here is be prepared for that. Like, the ratings are completely different over the board. So don't take anyone lightly. If you see like, oh, this will be easy, 1000 rated, yeah, just watch out, because you might be playing a kid that's rated 1000 or 900 or 800, and then next year they might be like 1900. It's insane. Continuing on here, make sure you know the rules. I don't want to specify all of them here because it will depend on your country. Even between America and US, there's some small subtleties of different rules. But some of the main ones are touch move, of course. You must record your moves, like every move. So first you The rules have changed, but these days you move first and then you write down your move. Everything is very strict, so you can't write your move first. You can't write any notes or anything. Um, and again, you have to record both your moves and your opponent's moves. So you can't, if you neglect to do that, the tournament director will stop. Like they'll force you to do that, and you have to do it on your time. You have to do that on your time. And if you forgot to record the moves, you're going to have to like ask to borrow your opponent's sheet and write them all down. So just make sure you do. Make sure you do that. Of course, there's no talking or distracting, or everything is super serious. It's not like the Queen's Gambit TV show where they're talking leisurely during the tournaments. Everything is super super serious, like a funeral, or more so. Um, Say good luck and shake hands at the beginning of the game. This is post COVID. That might change, but at least say good luck. Have good sportsmanship. Most of the time controls these days over the board are 90 plus 30. That means you each have 90 minutes. I mean, I don't have to explain this. You guys know this already, but basically 90 minutes each, so an hour and a half plus 30 seconds increment. This is a lot of time. If you never played this before over the board, it is an extraordinary amount of time. Sometimes I will think for 15, 20 minutes on a single move. So use your time to think. This is a very long time. Like this can equal a 4-hour game. Okay, so 4 hours of thinking nonstop is a very, very long time. So make sure you use your time to think. I've seen so many new players. They move so quickly over the board. It'll be unlikely that you get into time trouble because it's so much time in your first tournament. If anything, you're probably going to be moving too quickly. So just take your time. It's a marathon. This is an incredible long time. Okay. Whoops. And then for the first tournament, at least round one. Yeah, so I recommend that you stay in your seat. You are allowed, of course, to go to the bathroom. You're allowed, usually they want you're supposed to stay in the playing hall. That's to help prevent cheating. And you're obviously allowed to get up, stretch your legs, walk around, clear your head. But for your first tournament, I think you should sit down and just focus on the game, because it's your first tournament, and I that's just what I recommend. I mean, but you're certainly allowed to get up. You're supposed to get up when it's your opponent's move, not during your move. So when it's your turn, you're supposed to actually sit down in your seat. But yeah, you can get up if you really need to stretch your legs. If you do need to stretch your legs, don't do it right behind the table. Like, go off somewhere so that you don't distract your opponent or anyone else. Okay, let's see here. So if you want to offer a draw, the way you do it is you make your move and then immediately offer the draw to your opponent. You can just say, like, I offer a draw. Yeah, you don't really need to, don't stick out your hand. Just verbally say it, like, very quietly, like, I'm offering a draw or a draw. If you stick out your hand, your opponent might think that you resigned. So you can if your opponent agrees, then you can shake hands again, assuming no pandemic. If you want to resign, you can stop the clock, pause the clock, or you can just again verbally say that you resign. You don't need to sign the score sheet, or at least not in Canada. In the US, maybe you do, but in Canada you don't. And like no one ever does that. I've never seen that. I think that's really more for the high level tournaments. But in the US, you might have to do that. I don't know. And then say good game at the end of the game, whether you win or lose. Okay. More. Well, this is a long video, hey. Okay, so this is very important. When you finish the game, whether you win, lose, or draw, make sure you record the game result at the front or wherever. Sometimes there's sheets posted up right by where the pairings were on the wall, or it might be on a table. You need to record the game results. So if you lost, put a 0 by your name and a 1 by your opponent. If it was a draw, put like a half or a 0.5 by each side. And if you won, give yourself a 1 and your opponent a 0. If you see your opponent doing it, make sure they put it down correctly. Make sure they wrote it down. But that's an important thing. Sometimes, like if you don't write it down, there's been cases where it's been forfeited. So yeah, make sure you write down the game result. It's also very important for the tournament directors to have them so that they can do the pairings correctly for the next round. When you finish the game, turn off the clock and set up the game. I'm surprised I didn't write that down, but set up the board rather, the game. Set up the board after you finish the game and immediately leave the playing hall. Don't talk to your opponent. Don't be like, oh yeah, I think you had rook h5. Don't do that. It's super annoying and distracting to your fellow players beside you. Very distracting. I hate it when people do that. People think they're whispering and they're being quiet, but it's not quiet. It's very distracting. I hate it when people do that so much because it's unbelievably distracting. But yeah, so leave the playing hall. So just write down the game result and get out of there. Now, once you leave, you can ask if your opponent wants to go over the game. So often, like after you resign or your opponent resigns or whatever, or you agree to a draw, then you might say you just kind of motion like that, like it just means like, do you want to go over the game, or you might say, you might just ask them like do you want to go over the game, and then they go to that, or no, and then yeah. So anyways, if you can ask your opponent if you want to analyze the game. Of course, again, don't do that there. There's a separate room that you can do that called a Skittles room. Sometimes the tournaments don't have a Skittles room, so you can just meet them out far away and talk to them about it. But a Skittles room is just like a room where away from the playing hall that you can talk with anyone, go over the games. You don't have to whisper there. You can just go over the games with your opponent. This is pretty common. You'd be surprised. I would say maybe, well, with kids, it's a little less common, but I still have done it with kids where you analyze a game after. I would say maybe like 60 to 70% of the time, I will analyze a game with the opponents. And usually it's them that ask me. People are usually happy to do it, especially if they win or if they got a good draw. If they lose, they're a little bit less likely to do it. But if they win, yeah, usually they will analyze the game with you. And it's quite helpful to do it. Even though you can analyze the game with the computer afterwards, it's really nice to know your opponent's thought process. If they said, oh, they were scared when you played this or whatever, it's really nice to actually analyze with your opponent after. Especially after both of you spent like 3 to 4 hours playing the game. It's like you're buddies now, because you put so much blood, sweat, and tears there. Okay. After round 1, after you analyze your game, you won't have much time unless you, like, if you did it properly, your game should have taken about 3 to 4 hours, or at least 2.5 hours. So at that point, you should grab lunch, go for a walk. You won't have too much of a break. You'll basically have enough time to go find some food and eat, and you might have another 20 minutes to relax, and then round 2 is going to start soon. So again, that's in North America. You'll have 2 rounds per day usually, which is very tiring. So round 2, same as round 1. Like I don't need to go over what we just talked about. One of the differences now with round 2, the winners are generally paired with winners, losers with losers. So if you lost your first game, your second game should be, or there's a good chance it will be easier than your first game. Or it could be harder, but usually it's going to be a little bit easier. If you won your first game, it might be a little bit harder. Um, and that is doubly so as the rounds proceed. Like if you won your first two games in round three, well, your third game, your opponent's going to basically get harder and harder because your opponent will be undefeated. Um, and the same thing holds true if you lose. If you lost your first three games, well, round four, you're going to play someone else that has lost three games as well, or they might have lost two games and one draw. But um, you will, as the rounds go on, you're going to be paired with more equally and equally skilled opponents or performance in that tournament. Oh, need some water. After round two, you should be exhausted, especially the higher rated you are. That's because you're thinking so much more, and the older you are. For me, this is a real big issue. I get so tired, like mentally fatigued, and I blunder a lot. But yeah, you're going to be really tired, and all you're going to want to do is eat. You might have some adrenaline. I always do. Because especially if you win, you're going to be pumped up and you're going to have this insane feeling, like just an insane amount of energy all of a sudden. You're just, whoa, especially if you win a game, you're going to be a huge high. You'll be riding a huge high, and it's going to make you completely addicted to chess tournaments. The feeling you get when you win a game, it's unbelievable over the board. It's nothing like online. Nothing online. You could win 1,000 games online. It's not like winning a single over the board tournament game. I'm telling you right now. Anyways, so just grab dinner, take it easy and relax. I usually just like to go to my hotel room and order some food or pick up some food, whatever, and just eat there, watch some TV, go on the internet, just totally relax because you're burned out at that point. And depending on your level, you might want to prepare for your next opponent if the pairings have been posted. Where I am, they post them pretty late. It depends on the TD, but usually like 10 p.m., 9 p.m., sometimes like midnight, they'll post the next round's pairings for the next day. And then you can go and do your research on that opponent if you have ChessBase, or there's other ways to do it as well. But if it's your first tournament, you don't worry about that. Again, unless you're high rated, it's not anything you have to worry about. For the final day, again, this could be round 5 or 6. If you're playing in a big tournament, like a national open, for example, those could be 9 rounds. I think even 11 rounds sometimes. It depends on the tournament. But for most tournaments, it'll be 5 or 6 rounds. If you finish high enough in the rankings where you will win a trophy or some prize money, you might need to stick around for a closing ceremony. Again, it depends on the tournament. Some of the nicer tournaments that I go to, they have like a little closing ceremony where they present the winners and have some closing remarks and stuff. It's not a huge thing, but you might need to stick around so they can take some photos, officially give you a trophy or some prize money. Like they used to do it in cash here. Now they do it by e-transfer. So usually usually in chess tournaments there's no like playoffs. Tie breaks are done. Basically, there's a number of ways they do it, but usually it's done by your opponent's total rating average, and so usually there's no playoffs. And that's for time constraints. And prize money is split. So if there's 2 people that tie for first place for $500, you each get $250. Trophies, the trophies will be awarded based on the tiebreak formula again, which is very unfortunate, but that happens. If you don't win anything, as soon as you finish your last game, you can just go home. You don't have to sign out. You don't have to. You can just go home. So, or you could, I mean, you could stick around for the closing ceremony, hang out, you know, talk to people. Um, but most people just go home. So, um, yeah, be sure to keep your score sheets so that you can analyze them in detail afterwards. They're worth their weight in gold. Yeah, it is true because, again, you put so much into those games. The tournament games, you're spending 3 to 4 hours per game, and you're putting all of your energy, so much effort into it. You're trying your hardest. Those games, you're thinking about your moves so deeply. Those are the best games that you can analyze because you've put so much thought and care into each of your moves. So definitely keep your score sheets. I guess that's the finish there. So I mean, I actually, these are the exact same photos that I had in my other video where I explained why you should play over the board. But yeah, just some final photos, I guess, to finish this. Um, yeah, again, there's no water here, but you can just kind of see you've got your pen and score sheet, your clocks, um, and yeah, I mean, this is beverages. You're yeah, you're usually, like, you can bring in like coffee or drinks and so forth. Sometimes you can bring in snacks, but you have to be very, very careful about not being noisy or distracting your opponent. So you don't want to be like eating chips or something like that. That's not, you're not allowed to do that. But um, it's okay to. Some people bring in like a chocolate bar or something, but you have to be very discreet. Probably you want to get up and eat it off in the corner or something. Basically, nothing to distract your opponent. Again, you'll be facing lots of kids, um, and yeah, earplugs. You can see me putting my fingers in my ears here because I get I get distracted early. This is the board number that I was telling you about before. There'll be like little labels that show the board number. This is board number 19. Black is always on one side of the table. White is always on the other. Um, this is actually that one tournament I was telling you about where it took me a while to find a way into the building because all the doors were locked. I had to go in through one entrance, and then even once I was here, then I had to find out the right area. It's not hard, but you want to get there. You don't want to get there late and lose like 15 minutes on your clock time, right? That's all. Okay, so that is that. Thanks for watching. I might have one final video in this tournament, over the board tournament series, where I might talk about tournament tips. So different tips that I have when playing over the board. Okay, thank you.